Dobar dan i dobrodošli u 6. SoMo Borac, to jest SoMo Cast, podcast u sklopu SoMo Borca u suradnji s 24 Sata, gdje predstavljamo firme i pojedince koji čine digitalnu ekonomiju. Zahvaljujem svim sponzorima i partnerima, Httpool, Limpay, Hrvatski Telekom, SofaScore, Lako, Kekspay, Erste banka, Google, Muzej Iluzija, Productive i Revuto, sve cool brendovi, te svim drugim partnerima od medija pa do konferencija s kojima sjajno surađujemo. Pozivam vas da se pretplatite na naš newsletter, postanete dio najveće digitalne zajednice i naravno dođete 11.11. na SoMo Borac koji će se održati u Zagrebu ovaj put. Danas s nama imamo posebnog gosta iz Londona i zato ću se prebaciti na engleski. Eyabo Macauley. Hello.
Hi.
Everybody calls you Yabs.
Everyone calls
right?
me Yabs, yes. The only person that calls me Yabo is my dad, and usually when I'm in trouble for something. So, let's definitely use Yabs today.
Okay, I'll call you Yabs then, definitely. Okay, you're calling from London, right?
I am, yes, from a very sunny London this morning.
Everything changes. Sunny London and not so sunny Zagreb.
Yeah.
Great. Tell me, so Snap is based in London for Europe, or?
Well, we have a number of offices across Europe. So the largest office in Europe is in London. We've also got offices in France, in Germany. So yeah, we're kind of well spread across Europe. But our head office obviously is in LA.
Oh, it's LA. Yeah, as expected. I thought it's San Francisco actually, but it's LA. Great. Mm. Tell me a little bit about yourself before we go to Snap.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my journey in my sort of professional career kind of started in digital. So I started at AOL. So I worked there for a few years, and then I went on to Bebo, which at the time was a really interesting social media platform focused specifically on the younger generation. And then I think the next step that I made that I think almost kind of contributed to how I ended up at Snap was I went to Shazam. And Shazam, for anyone who remembers at the time, I mean, it was incredible in terms of, the technology, the kind of audio recognition technology. It started with just music. And over the time that I was there, it moved to TV. But that's when I think I really started to become interested in, what you could do with regards to technology, but also with media. And then, a few years later, the opportunity for Snap came along, and I was really excited because, everything that I knew about Snap was kind of founded in the technology of the camera. And, in the time that I've been at Snap, which is 3 years now, the product keeps evolving. We keep kind of having these new kind of advancements, and it's just it's a really exciting place to work.
Amazing, great brands, I must say.
Mm-hmm.
I like the positioning of the Snap. They say Snap is a camera company.
Yes.
But what does that mean? What do you mean by camera company?
Yeah, so I mean, when we listed on the New York Stock Exchange, we listed as a camera company, right? And I think, when you ask the question, what does that mean? Everything that we do is kind of centered around the camera. So even when you open the app always opens to the camera. And it's about encouraging, that self-expression, that creativity, but also I think it offers a really interesting opportunity, not just for, individuals who are, playing around with their creativity and their self-expression, but also for brands to really be able to give themselves a different way of kind of communicating and expressing with, the Snapchat audience in particular. So yeah, everything, we almost like live and die by the camera at Snap. And, when we think about, some of the other people who are in this space in terms of, AR and lenses and filters, I think, we've been doing this for over 10 years now. So it really is, a foundational core of the business.
I mean, as I remember, Snap was the first company that actually, or Snapchat first app that really put camera in the center of everything. Later on, kind of that became a trend, but Snap was first, if I remember well.
Yeah, and that goes to the point, the app always opens to the camera. It's the first thing that you engage with. It's the first thing that you experience. And that will never change. That, as I say, it's an integral part of our Snap DNA. And so, we know that now, AR and, people playing around with lenses and filters has become a lot more popular across other platforms. But you have to remember that, we were doing it first.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was really innovative in a way. Two things are very innovative, in my opinion, with the Snap, reinventing the camera. And now we really see that video is taking over and everything else, which is basically camera. Other companies started with digitalizing text or something else, but Snap was really into camera. And another thing was augmented reality. So Snap was really heavy on augmented reality.
Yeah. And,
can you tell me a little bit more about it, please?
Absolutely. And look, I mean, again, when we think about how we, differ from, other platforms, I think augmented reality is the thing that really sets us apart. And we've been on a real journey, I think, with augmented reality because, when you think about, those original executions of, the vomiting rainbows or, the cat that could sit on your head. I mean, they're all fun, they're all exciting, they're all engaging. But actually, I think, in terms of the journey that we've been on with AR, it's about, how can we make it kind of performative so it works, right? So it's not just about these whimsical kind of fun executions, about how can we really make it performant, especially for brands. And so I think for us at Snap, AR is a real kind of, it's a tool, right? It can be a tool for brands to communicate with an audience that loves to use the camera, loves to play around with their likeness. It can be, something that you can use to discover about, the world around you. So, for example, you can scan a plant or a dog and, the app will tell you exactly what you're looking at. Or you could, work out, get a maths calculation kind of from the app, right? So this is all still being driven by the camera technology. So that the camera is always at the heart of all of that. But look at the various different ways now that you can, actually kind of use the camera and exploit it in terms of like finding out, more about, yourself, the people around you, but also the world around you as well.
Yeah, but when we say augmented reality, I mean, in order to get the full use of augmented reality, you really need to reinvent the camera. So as Snap also said, we are reinventing the camera.
Absolutely.
I know that you try to put camera in many different, like not only through cell phone, mobile phone, but smartphone, but also in many other ways. Yeah,
I mean, so for example, you can have like the Snap camera could be integrated into Zoom, for example, right? So you can be having a conference call and you can change your background. We have, the spectacles, we have, Pixie, which there are all different ways that, we've taken the camera and said, okay, it doesn't have to just be, the old kind of style camera that we all knew, or even, the mobile camera. It's about, how can you interject and how can you kind of get the camera into as many places that it can be relevant. So, yeah, I think we've definitely kind of taken the uses of the camera, but also the way that you can access the camera to a whole nother level.
Yeah. There used to be a lot of discussion between augmented reality and virtual reality. And I think more people believe that augmented reality will be something that is easier to imagine or easier to become a part of everyday life of every person, basically. Yeah. But now we talk more about virtual reality as metaverse. The concept of metaverse came out. What is metaverse for Snap?
So I think for us, the metaverse is, it's an interesting term. I think it's become a little bit confusing for, a lot of people because it's almost become all encompassing with AR and virtual reality. But actually, I think for us, when we think about augmented reality, it's about almost giving an enhanced digital layer around something that is real, right? That's already in existence. And when you think about, virtual reality, and then by virtue of that, the metaverse, it's about almost going to a different reality, right? So transporting you from, the reality that you're in now and going to a different reality. And I think for us, we do really believe that the world that we're living in is an amazing one, right? And it's about building connections and experiences in the world that we live in. And that's why, augmented reality is a way to do that. And I think with the metaverse or with, virtual reality, I think that the challenge that we have is, in some instances, you need, hardware, right, in order for you to be able to kind of get to that reality. Or, I think what we're seeing a lot of now is that, brands really want to get involved because we're being told, the metaverse and virtual reality is where you need to be. But they're actually not quite sure how to do it, right, or how to execute it properly. And I think, at Snap, where we've been, playing around with, augmented reality and developing augmented reality for so many years now, we have, ready-made solutions, right? We're not talking about something in the future that we might be able to do, with hardware, or we might be able to execute. We're talking about, experiences that we can deliver right now, and especially for brands, experiences that we can help deliver right now. And, we've got plenty of examples of, brands that we've worked with, even, locally in SEE, who have been able to, really deliver these incredibly kind of engaging and immersive experiences. I mean, we've got examples from brands, let's say Samsung, right, who we had, a very basic lens, but we were able to kind of deliver a playtime of over 30 seconds. And so, when you think about what that means in terms of, TV time or, listening to the radio, these are things that we're actually able to deliver, right now. So, I think the metaverse it's an interesting concept, but I think for us, what we're doing with AR, we can deliver, right now and make it very accessible to brands right now.
I must agree with you. I've been to many meetings where we discuss metaverse, and every time it was nobody really knew what's the definition of metaverse. So, okay, let's go back to augmented reality company. Tell me about Snap a little bit. Tell me some usage numbers, world.
Globally we have 332 million daily active users, and they're producing around 5 billion snaps every day, right? So that's an incredible number. When we start to look, more specifically at SEE, so, in Croatia, we've got around 900,000 users, kind of addressable reach, around 480,000 in Slovenia and 1.7 million in Serbia. And actually, the great thing that we've seen is, in the last year or so, from, May last year to May this year, is incredible growth. So, in Croatia, that's around, 66%, which is, just...
Wow, that's amazing.
It's phenomenal, right? And I think part of that is definitely because, we do have, various user acquisition strategies at play. But I think the really interesting thing, in particular with the audience that, we see on Snap, in particular in SEE, is, the Gen Z and millennial audience. And nothing beats, that viral capability of, word of mouth. And so I think, people enjoy using the app. We conducted a survey around a year or so ago, and it was looking at, how people kind of feel about using the app, and the data that we got back was 95% of Snapchatters feel happy when they're using the app. And I think that has a big, impact on, why people decide to use the app, and, the frequency with which they use the app, because they're actually using the app and opening the app up to 30 times a day, right? So that offers incredible opportunity, I think, especially for brands to be able to engage with the Snapchat audience in a different way.
Wow. So just let me go back to global numbers. So you said 322 daily active users.
32 daily active
32.
users.
That's a big. I mean, that's so basically Snap is similar in size to Twitter.
Yeah,
globally.
And I think again it becomes quite an interesting play, because I think in some markets, or at least from a brand and marketeer's perspective, they're not fully aware of the scale of Snap, right? I mean, we've been around for 11 years now. So, it's a well-known brand, and we can compete, on that kind of world stage in terms of, global numbers, and even as I kind of mentioned in some of our kind of growing markets, like in SEE, we still have, really strong and robust numbers and showing really strong growth. And I think more specifically, when we think about the audience, the penetration in the Gen Z and millennial, I think, is almost second to none.
So can you be more specific about the target, the global target? What is the average user, or who are the average users?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we would say that our key kind of demographic is that Gen Z audience. So from like 13 up. I think it does vary from market to market. Sometimes you kind of see that pushing more towards the millennial audience, but definitely I think Gen Z is the audience that I think in most markets would say that we capture really well.
So can you tell me, please, is Snap popular in some specific markets? Do you have any examples? Like I'm interested in the global numbers.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, Snap has been around for 11 years now, right? So we've seen, what were kind of, nascent or, emerging markets suddenly become, incredibly kind of, have really strong penetration. So we look at the UK, we look at, the US, we have a very strong foothold in Europe. So, in the EU5, so France, Germany, Italy, Spain, also across the Nordics. MENA is becoming an increasingly strong foothold for
MENA,
us.
that's Middle East and Northern Africa, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. But also, I think, in partnership with Httpool, we're really seeing the Central and Eastern Europe markets kind of become, very strong. And we're seeing some incredible growth, as I already mentioned, with, Croatia, 66% growth kind of, year on year. I think Slovenia, it's like 28% growth year on year. So there's definitely a real shift, I think, in terms of not only the more developed markets, because what we're seeing is there's a more kind of even split, I guess, across the various different age demographics. But for the new and more emerging markets, we're seeing that, as we saw in the original kind of, UK and US markets, a really strong penetration in that Gen Z and millennial audience. So yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, for Snap, because there's still a lot of markets for us to kind of see that trajectory kind of continue to go up in a really kind of strong and healthy way.
I mean, numbers in Southeastern Europe are amazing. But can you tell me, just go back, you told me that in more developed markets, you have kind of older audience as well, because they stayed with the app. Do they use the app differently?
So, I mean, obviously from market to market, it depends. I mean, we have some markets that are incredibly like camera heavy, right? So people love using the lenses, they love using the filters. But I think one of the things that I've seen, even, locally here in the UK, is that, potentially the older that the audience become, they're more kind of using the chat function. I have a really good friend of mine who often is kind of using the app to find out exactly where her son is, because we had the map feature that allowed you to kind of locate your close friends and family. So that's always an interesting one. But then, we've spent a lot of time kind of developing really kind of great relationships with publishers. So now we have, really good, strong publisher content. So that's another area, I think, where you can see sometimes, the slightly older audiences are more likely to engage. So I think there's something in the app, for everyone. Just depending, on your network and, what your interests are. But that's definitely kind of some of the trends that we've seen with the older audiences.
This seems like a great opportunity for some publishers, actually. I'm not sure many are using the opportunity in this region. So to be among first, it's always the best.
Absolutely.
Cool. Tell me about the target a little bit more. I mean, you're saying Gen Z, millennials. Mm-hmm. Do you have any numbers or?
Yeah, I mean, so if we're talking specifically about the SEE region. So, for example, if we were to look at Croatia, we know that we have. Sorry, I might need to do a calculation, because I haven't got I've got the breakdown by audience, but not as a total.
Let's talk about Snap or Snapchat and companies in Southeastern Europe. I would like to explore what are the opportunities for the companies here. Are you working with companies here already? You have some examples?
Yeah. We've had some great campaigns. So, I mean, we've worked across, pretty much every single vertical, but also with, a number of global brands. So we've worked with the likes of, Samsung, L'Oreal, who is, we have a really good relationship, I think, in the SEC region. So across, fragrances, beauty, the whole kind of umbrella as a brand. And then we have, Disney Plus, we have Burger King. So that's just from a global brands perspective, who are, they're brands that we work with across a number of different markets, but are really kind of proving to have a great interest in Snap in SCE, but also that it's really working for them, right? So we're producing either, bespoke lenses, or we're using, kind of global lenses that are produced in other markets that we can very easily kind of localize for, the SEC region. But then, we also have, local brands that we're working with. So, telcos like A1, we have, banks that we're working with locally. So there's lots of, I think, different opportunities, within retail, Lidl, we're doing, things around music festivals. Summer was a great time for us because, there's such a strong kind of music festival kind of industry, I think, across Croatia and in the SEE region. And so, we're working with brands like Fresh Island, for example. So yeah, there are lots of different opportunities. I mean, I've mentioned a lot of those global brands there, but we also have, brands who are exporting out of, Croatia. So, for example, Superbet, who we have a great relationship. We're currently kind of working with them on, activations around, the World Cup. We have, SofaScore, again, who are, exporting outside of Croatia. We have Foreo. So there's lots of, brands that we're working with, either as global brands who were kind of advertising locally, or local brands that are obviously advertising locally, but we also have brands that are exporting to other markets like the US, for example, right? So we have, I think, a really good kind of mix of brands, mix of verticals. And really it's just about, I think, us really kind of understanding, what individual brand objectives are, so that we can work together and kind of, with the help of the local Httpool teams who are our sales partner across, SEE, we can really kind of build those campaigns to make sure that they meet, the objectives and KPIs that you lay out in the beginning. And so I think there are lots of different opportunities. There's lots of different case studies, examples that we can show of, how these brands are kind of really working successfully on Snap.
So for this region, Httpool is actually helping the companies about Snap.
Yes. I mean, we don't have like Snap offices in SEE. What we have is a very strong partnership with Httpool, who we've been working with in different ways, or the Aleph Group, which is the parent company, for over 5-6 years. So they're essentially an extension of Snap in those markets. So they can help with building campaigns, running the campaigns, optimizing the campaigns, anything that you would imagine that we at Snap directly could do, the Httpool team can do also. Okay,
that was actually my question. So if local brands need help, they can go to Httpool and they're getting at everything. Absolutely. Like they go to Snap. Yeah.
Exactly that.
Perfect. Can you give me some examples of some cool campaigns, global campaigns, any campaign that we can, Google afterwards and check them out a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the ones that really kind of stands out for me was the one that we did with Doritos. So it was around the Super Bowl, and it was really interesting because what we were able to do was with Meg The Stallion, the well-known kind of music artist, launch a music video on the shape of a Dorito, right? So we know that the Dorito has a very distinctive triangular shape, as does the Cheeto, which has that kind of that long kind of form. And what we were able to do using the machine learning at Snap was to kind of have the camera recognize when it saw that triangular shape and project then the music video onto that shape. And so it was, incredible in terms of, the innovation that kind of went behind that, right? The ability to take, an iconic shape, layer that on with, an experience that nobody would expect, right? And so there was a teaser campaign kind of building up to it. And then when it launched, it was literally just like, wow, this is incredible. So that's, a really good example, I think, of, how we're, I think, really leading the way in terms of innovation.
Amazing. I love to see innovative campaigns, actually, that creates a buzz around. I wonder, who do you see as a direct competitor at Snap? Because you're social media, definitely, but you're still a camera company.
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting question because, as we've already discussed, we are a camera company. That is who we are at our heart. But, for brands and marketeers, ultimately, we would sit in the same kind of bucket as, Facebook, Instagram, as TikTok. But I think, our real USP is the camera. And that's why we will always talk about ourselves as being a camera company. And I think, our technology around, AR, the immersive and innovative experiences that we deliver really is kind of, second to none. And so, even though we know that we're competing in the same space as those other brands, I think our technology really does set us apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we end, I have to ask you about spectacles. I'm a big fan.
Everybody loves the spectacles.
Absolutely.
The spectacles and Pixie are the two things that everyone
wants to talk about. That was my second question, actually.
Okay, so, spectacles, I think, are a great piece of technology. I think, the next thing that we're really kind of thinking about now and developing, evolving is the Pixie. So there's, the incredible camera that kind of is taking, I guess, picture taking to a whole new level, right? And if you really want to kind of have an experience and you want to be able to play around with them, go down to the event. We'll have a Pixie. We'll have the spectacles there for you to play around with.
Wait. So we're going to have Pixie and spectacles at SoMo Borac.
It's going to be there in Zagreb. So yes.
That's a great news.
It was a very special kind of request. We knew that we had to get them, over to Croatia. So yes, they will be there. So please do go down to the event, spend some time playing around with them. I know that you're going to have a good time.
Amazing. That's the best news for me, actually, to have some fun. Great. I really want to follow what's going to happen with your research, because when you put camera and augmented reality together, many interesting things will definitely happen. So it will be great, actually, to follow what is happening with Snap.
Absolutely. And please, keep watching this space. We've been in this kind of, we've owned in this sector for, a long time now. And we know we're always thinking about new ways that we can, evolve and keep that engagement. I think not only for the Snapchat audience, but also for brands, right? I think it's about how we kind of bring those two things together. So yeah, keep watching this space. There's definitely more exciting things to come.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in augmented reality. I think a discussion will go back to augmented reality because we can deliver a lot there. So it's a great future for augmented reality very soon. Okay, hope to see you in Zagreb. Coming to
Yes, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Okay, we're gonna have an amazing party on November 11th. So I really hope you're gonna visit us. Okay, thank you so much for this interesting discussion. See you in Zagreb and have a great sunny day in London.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.